All right, I want to take you step by step on how to properly install a servo into a vehicle. I have my Airtronics MXV radio here. I also have my Sanwa servo, and I have my B5M we're going to install things into. First things first, we need to make sure the radio is all zeroed out. So we're going to grab the radio here, go and turn the radio on. And things you want to check out here. First things first, you want to make sure your dual rate, DR, is set at 100%. We'll change this later, but it's something you just want to check, make sure it's there. Then we'll go here to EPA, which stands for endpoint adjustment. You want to make sure you're on the steering setting. You want to make sure you check your left and right. See how it goes between right and left. Are both at 100%. Again, we'll change this at a later setup. We go down here. You want to make sure all your trims, oops, too far. There you go. Trim for steering. This button here, usually around your wheel on your radio, is set at 0. And then also you want to go down here and find your sub trim. If your radio has sub trim to it, great. If it does, you want to make sure this is set at 0 also. Okay, we have that there. Next thing we need to do is plug in your servo into your receiver. Make sure it has power going to it. We'll go ahead and turn this on here. Servo will center out. Servo, of course, works. Always a good idea to make sure a servo works before you put it in. And the servo sits in here just like this, so we need to make sure we grab a servo horn. Make sure you grab the servo horn that's correct for the servo. This is an associated Airtronics servo, so they use the A servo horn. You want to make sure you grab the right servo horn for what you're using. So what you're going to do, since this sits in like this, you want to make sure that this horn sits 90 degrees straight up and down. But if you notice, when I put this thing on, if I put it on here, it's tilted this way. If I put one click over, one tooth over, it's more click this way. So all servos will be different. No two servos are the same. No, they never seem to go on perfectly straight. If you want to err, always err on the side of leaning more towards where your bell crank is attached to. So right now I'm going to make it lean more this way. So we'll attach the servo horn on here. If you have a clamping style servo horn, the one that uses a screw that screws here and usually here and clamps it on so it stays tight, still use this end servo screw. I see a lot of people don't use this end screw. They think those two clamping screws are enough to hold it on. But after enough turning back and forth, it wiggles and you'll wiggle it right off the end of your servo. So always a good idea to put this screw in place. If you have worry about it falling out, a little bit of blue Loctite will go a long ways on that. Don't use red or anything like that. Just a little bit of blue will hold it in place. So now what we're going to do is we're going to drop this in place here. Screw it down here. Just like that. All right, now, here's the most important part. And I'll zoom in on this a little bit here. All right, here we go. Now this is your bell crank here. This is a very important setup part here when installing a servo in a vehicle. You want to make sure this bell crank is centered left to right. And the way you know that is basically this arm that goes here will be pointing straight back on your vehicle. If it's off to one side like that or like that, your steering rack will not be centered. Let's see if we can get that going here. So you can see definitely you want your steering rack centered about like that there. You don't want to have it off to one side or the other, because if you do that, then your steering will not be correct, both left and right. Let me zoom back out here. So what we're going to do here is going to pop this ball cup on here. If you remembered when we put the servo in, oops, pain to me today. There we go. Now, if you notice, when I put this in, I am tilted a little bit this way. We'll zoom back in here real quick. You can see that this is actually this way a little bit. So what we need to do is we need to change that on the radio settings. So on the MXV radio, you will go to the sub trim menu. You can see it flashing over here, sub T, on steering. And what we're going to do is we're going to change that. Oh, wrong way. Until that is pointing straight forward and back, just like that there. So I'll zoom in here again. You can definitely see that now this is pointing straight back and it doesn't lean to one side or the other. All right. And now you're ready to set all your caster and camber on the outside because you know your servo's centered and everything's ready to go. The only time you're going to adjust this sub trim is when you're setting the servo. Anytime you need to set anything else, like if your car drifts to the left or right, what you're going to need to do is you need to adjust just the regular trim that's usually found around the wheel of your radio, just like this up here. So that's how to properly install a servo into a B5M.